Hi again then guys, and welcome to another Rivals Showdown, and in this particular showdown we're going much more smaller scale. Often we take on big Can-Am car rivalries, Le Mans car rivalries, supercars, etc. In this particular rivalry we're going much more small scale, to two vehicles which have a lot of performance to offer for classics, but in the case of one of these two in particular doesn't necessarily get the use that it might deserve. Now the two vehicles are essentially both Cobras. You've got the AC 427 and the Shelby Cobra 427. Of course AC was the origin of the Cobra. Carroll Shelby took an AC model, fitted it with a big Ford V8 and turned it into the Cobra. So, which one is better? Well, as always, I have put extra information and tunes about these cars in the description, but for now, let's consider what each one has to offer. First up we have the AC 427 SC, or Supercharged. This car is definitely far less utilised by most players than the Shelby version, which isn't surprising really. It's in a more obscure dealership than Shelby. Shelby has much more fanfare around it these days. It's not a premium model, whereas the Cobra from Shelby is. And apart from that, really, could it be better than the Shelby Cobra? Surely it would just be the same or worse, being a non-premium. Well, surprisingly, in quite a few ways, this is actually a superior car, and even without tuning it, you can instantly see a big advantage of this model, even in the dealerships. And that is that this car is over 100 grand cheaper. Now, 423 grand is still a lot of cash, but 530 grand for the Shelby version is even more. 100 grand is nothing to be sniffed at. You could buy this car and tune significant parts on it just for the price of buying the Shelby version. Now overall, many people haven't driven this model, so how does it compare? Well, in a straight line it is slower. The top speed is more around 250-ish on this one, whereas it's around 265, 270 on the Cobra. The acceleration on both is very rapid, and the handling on this model is different. This particular model is a little more tail happy, it's a little heavier, but it still handles very well. So overall, it's a Cobra, so you pretty much know what you're going to get to some degree, but I would say this feels a little less polished than the Shelby, but that's mainly due to it being a non-premium. Now though, let's consider the Shelby version. Now we've touched on many of the points regarding this car in terms of advantages. You've got the premium aspect of things, you've got the fact that it's used a lot more, and cars that are used more do tend to be, not always, but they tend to be the one to go for, because the community on a racing game tends to find the best vehicles quite well and quite rapidly. So if the Cobra is used more, surely it's the better car. Well, in some ways, yes. I'd say the primary way in which the Cobra is actually better is in terms of weight. It weighs over 180 kilos less in fully tuned form than the AC version. Another significant advantage is, of course, the premium treatment, which for many people makes a huge difference. And as far as handling, I already mentioned that the AC version feels a little duller, a little more tail-happy, a little less refined. This car, by inference, is obviously the opposite. The handling is better, it's sharper, it's more focused, you have more clarity, generally speaking, with premium cars. They feel like Polyphony put more effort into the physics of the car, and that's definitely the case with the Cobra. Now it's interesting to note though, despite the fact that this car weighs 180 kilos less, the AC version is still only around 0.3 of a second slower. Both cars did a 126 lap of Indy. This Cobra in a 126.161 and the other in a 126.492. That's a very small difference, especially given how much extra weight the other car is carrying. So that's it for the overview. Now let's actually get down to the top trump style aspect of the series and see which one wins, at least on paper, purely for the fun of it. And as we lay out the specs of the two models, you start to see fairly quickly some particular advantages to each model, and some may actually be quite surprising. First of all, you've got the price. As I said earlier, that's probably the most instantly notable advantage of the AC model. It's a lot cheaper than the Cobra. That doesn't necessarily make it better, but being more affordable is a significant factor for many players. Not everyone's got unlimited funds to splurge on, so you need to choose your car wisely. As far as engine, the capacity is very close. 1cc separates the two of them, and it separates them in favour of the AC model. Both vehicles are, though, of course, 7 litres, as the 427 name indicates, and as far as PP, moving on, the Shelby version is higher. That's not too surprising, though, given that it is the lighter of the two, and lighter weight on Gran Turismo will often increase your PP far more than more power will. It seems to have much more of an effect on that, as it should, because weight has a big effect on lap potential. As far as power, though, interestingly, the AC is the superior car. Both are very powerful, but the AC has around 20 horsepower more than the Shelby. That's pretty impressive and kind of surprising. It also has more torque at just under 10 foot-pounds more. But again, both have a huge amount of torque to work with. As far as weight, as we already mentioned, that point definitely goes to the Shelby at 902 kilos, which is Le Mans car rivaling, whereas the AC is 1,088, which still isn't bad. That's the territory of a couple of TVR models, or a GT class race car, or a DTM machine. That's a pretty good weight, but the Shelby is significantly lighter, and as such, gets the point. And the horsepower per tonne also, despite the fact that the AC is more powerful, goes to the Shelby because of how much lighter it is, at 870 horsepower per tonne to the 741 of the AC. Again, both very impressive, up there with supercars in fact. But the Shelby is the better in that regard by quite a significant margin, and as we already said, the lap times are very, very close, and as always, will not be awarded a point either way because it depends on the driver, the track, the tuning. There are just too many variables. So, which one wins? You may have been tabulating it yourself as we went through, but for those who haven't, that means that overall, the Shelby loses to the AC on paper with 3 points to the 4 points of the AC model. Such a close match between the two. But would you expect it to be any other way? Of course not. They're two very similar vehicles. They trade advantages and disadvantages with each other completely, as you'd expect them to, being so close. But overall, perhaps the most surprising thing is that it goes to the AC model, which, considering how little use it gets from most players, is quite remarkable. But once again, the car which loses is the quicker, which is a recurring theme of this series. So overall, if I had to pick one to recommend, it would of course be the Shelby. It is a more refined overall machine, the handling does feel better, mainly due to the lower weight, and overall you just get more options with the Cobra. You can put race numbers on it, you can tune the bodywork, you can do various other things that just aren't an option on the AC model. The AC model has its own advantages though. You've got the rag top up at all times, and for those who like that, that may sound like a nothing difference, but for those who want that, that's a good advantage. You also get the option of this rather unique stripe colour combination, which you cannot get on the Cobra. Also, it is the more powerful of the two, and if you're looking for sheer numbers, you might want that. It's not the quicker of the two, but it does have some advantages. So overall, both cars are very good, and the best thing going for the AC version is definitely the price. Neither car will let you down, but I would say the AC requires slightly more skill to get the best out of. Both cars are excellent performance vehicles, and two of my personal favourites in the classic sports car category though. And that's it overall for this Rivals Showdown. As always, if there are other rivalries that you would like to see between two or more vehicles, feel free to put those in the comments below. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.